Houston has been in this spot before, and now let's talk about it with Zack Tawatari, along with former Texan Seth Payne from SportsRadio 610. Seth, it was ugly in many ways, so which emoji best represents how you're feeling about this game?
I think the emotionless emoji. I don't know, the one on the lower left there. I don't even know what that emotion is, which is kind of how I feel right now, because honestly, I expected there to be hiccups with the offense. I didn't expect them to be the absolute worst scoring offense in the NFL headed into Sunday and Monday night, and I don't think any of those teams, even mathematically, can come close to being as bad as the Texans. They've got a lot of issues to the point where it's almost impossible to pin down one specific item, which feels a whole lot like last year. So I didn't expect to be feeling the exact same way about the offense now that I did 12 months ago.
Jason, Seth, I'm rolling my eyes at this Texans team right now and the way that they're playing. You know why I'm rolling my eyes? Because we knew that these issues existed before the season started. And it seems like everyone was denying this inevitable fact that this team was just not very good offensively and they weren't going to have it together.
Oh, and really, Zach, when you look at a lot of these, you could go here, you could go there, you could go here, you could go there. I'm just here at this point because the Texans, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But in some ways, it also makes a lot of sense when you have a rookie play caller, an offensive line that really is patchwork. So that's what we're saying. And now here's what the Texans are saying after this game. So D'Amico has been saying we're close. Seth, are they really close?
They're the worst scoring offense in the NFL. The one thing I would say is that in both weeks 1 and this week, it looked like the offense was starting to open up in the fourth quarter. And then in week 1, you had a Ngumbawale fumble. And then in week 3, today, you had a Nico Collins fumble after Nico Collins himself had gotten the Texans back in the game. That and the rushing attack, I think the rushing attack was credible today. They just didn't run the ball that often. So they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. CJ continues to look out of sync and uncomfortable. The pass protection remains an issue. Guys aren't getting open. CJ doesn't seem as comfortable throwing it into tight windows. So there's been a little bit of progress, and yet they remain at the bottom of the NFL in terms of that most important thing, scoring points.
So if I understand you correctly, it doesn't sound like you think they're close.
I know, it felt like when the Astros have had a really good ERA all season long. You know what they haven't been doing? Scoring runs. So there's some good things you can point to with the Astros, but they just don't score enough runs. With the Texans right now, I can point to some good things, but it's a matter of stringing it together for 12 or 13 series in a game and not just hoping that they all figure it out at the very end. I mean, right now, the Texans defense, even though it's had a few hiccups in the first 2 weeks, they played a lot like their normal selves today. That defense isn't going to be able to carry you to wins week after week after week, obviously.
I don't get the sense that this team is close. When I looked at the first quarter and even the second quarter, this offense was doing nothing. And while Seth is certainly right on in saying that the offense in terms of rushing and running the football was better, I still don't get the feeling that they're close, even with that long touchdown pass to Nico Collins, which was more of a Jacksonville mistake than anything.
Right. And I feel like Seth hit it on the head. He said there's huge difference between having a couple good series versus 12 to 13 in a game to be able to sustain an offense. Right now, they have one or two. They've taken advantage of mistakes in the last couple weeks, especially in this game with the fact that they got that interception late in the game. But overall, this team is really far away from being a Baltimore, a Kansas City, and that's who you're hoping that they would want to compare themselves to. You're watching a different game when you watch those teams.
Obviously, there is so much that goes into creating an offense which moves the football. And now Seth's about to show us when it comes to pass protection, there's a lot of issues.
And ultimately, just as it was last year, this comes back to the offensive coordinator, the execution, all of those same similar problems that we had before. They've got a lot of things to clean up, including individual players needing to improve and play better.
I went looking for this statistic, how many offensive coordinators are replaced during the season, and could not find it. Now the question is, how much longer does D'Amico stick with Nick Caley as the OC, or is that off the table that he has to stick with him? What do you think, Zach?
Well, right now, I think he has to stick with him. I don't think you have another option for this season. I mean, how long do you stick with him in terms of needing him versus wanting him? I think you probably want him for another couple weeks. If things don't turn around, I think you have your answer that this is a sinking ship.
How long is that leash, Seth?
I think it might be through the bye week, because you face the Baltimore Ravens in a couple weeks, and you're going to find out right quick just how far away you are from the Ravens if you haven't improved by then. I mean, this is an offense that's trying to emulate the Josh McDaniels offense up in New England back when they were really, really good. They happen to have a quarterback by the name of Tom Brady. Back then, I don't know if anybody remembers him, but the question is, all right, is there anybody on your staff that you feel comfortable replacing him? Josh McDaniels' brother is on the staff, but they haven't looked at him as an offensive coordinator. I always go back to the Lions a few years ago when they replaced their play caller in the middle of the season with Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson ended up setting the Lions on the right path. I don't think that it's all that wacky an idea. If the Texans continue to get the absolute worst version of CJ Stroud, you've got to do something drastic, because you're wasting a lot of young talent on that offense being underdeveloped for one more season.
Is it possible, Seth, to have the right scheme and the right playbook and not use it properly? Could that be the situation, that maybe there needs to be another set of eyes instead of Nick Caley calling the plays, that maybe if it was coming out of Gerard Johnson's microphone, the order would look differently?
Oh yeah, that'd be like, I mean, you could give Winston Churchill and me the same speech. I'm gonna botch it, Winston Churchill will convince Parliament or whatever they want. Yes, 100%. I think the problem with the scheme, or the problem that's inherent with Josh McDaniels or the New England scheme, is that ultimately it comes down to having guys who are super, super intelligent make the right decisions all the time, and it really isn't as much. It's kind of like you can teach a lot of kids physics. There's only going to be one or two Einsteins. So that and Tom Brady might be one of the only guys that can really run this scheme effectively. We've seen it fail and flounder many, many times with various Brian Hoyers or other guys that tried it with the Texans. So yeah, it's difficult to get right. And typically I would like to see you do it maybe with a quarterback and a team that's in the infancy and trying to build and learn, not a team that on paper looks like it should be way more competitive than it is right now.
And Seth, what's hard to watch is that this first 15 plays, we've talked about this, Jason, are supposed to be scripted coming into games. The Texans offense looks the worst at those moments, and it seems like the only times they make any positive plays are when CJ gets off book or gets out of the pocket.
Well, and I think that, again, when the scripted plays, when they have, look, last week they scored twice on the opening drives. They at least got into field goal position early in the game, in this game. But when teams start to get a beat on exactly what your game plan is for that day, it gets really, really hard to there are very few magical in-game adjustments that are all of a sudden going to turn you into a good offense. So a lot of times when you're on a bad offense, like we saw with Bobby Slowick's offense last year, you get the best shot in the first half, and then after that, it's a whole lot of scrambling.
Seth, you brought up the Astros. So which offense is worse right now, Texans or Astros?
Oh my gosh. The Texans, because the Texans are the worst offense in the league, whereas the Astros have been hovering around 25th or so for the second half of the season. It's the Texans.
See, I would think that it'd be the Astros because they've had a longer time to not do it right. That, you have 150-something games that they've done this, and yes, there's been some peaks and valleys, but yeah, I would think because the Astros have been playing 150-something games that they would prove to have a worse offense.
Well, I would make the argument that every NFL week counts for more, because there's fewer games in the NFL season. So maybe the Texans they're certainly catching up quickly to the Astros in a very bad way.
Yeah, 3 games in the NFL is the equivalent of about 30 games in Major League Baseball. So this is 30 baseball games we've been watching this with the Astros. And when we're watching, who's the Framber Valdez on this football team right now? I don't know.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, I can't even. Is it Nick Caley because he's crossing up the offense?
It's partly Nick Caley. I would love to know where in the world Joe Mixon is. I mean, I don't even know if he's in the contiguous United States. D'Amico Ryans the other day said, "We hope he's doing well." I don't know if D'Amico knows where Joe Mixon is, so I'm certainly not holding out hope that he's going to come back. And Nick Chubb, to his credit, has done some good things. But I think, look, C.J. Stroud. Whether it's because he's uncomfortable in the offense because Nick Caley's not a good offensive coordinator, but now this is the second year in a row that we've seen C.J. Stroud perform below what our expectations are. I don't know, and it's hard to pin things on a quarterback when there's so many things going wrong. But CJ's not making these tight window throws. Adam Archuleta today on the broadcast said, well, there's not guys that are wide open. There's only tight window throws available. CJ doesn't seem as comfortable making those tight window throws right now. So is that partly on him, or is it because of the instability elsewhere or everywhere else, or is it because the receivers aren't running as crisp or as precise routes? It's a huge, huge question mark right now.
3 games in, what's the ceiling for this team? Many of us had 10, 11 wins. How many wins can this team get to with all of the issues it's having?
If they don't fix these issues, I would say that 7 wins would be something they could come by with a few deep strikes here and there in games by Nico Collins. And then if the turnovers and the takeaways start coming in droves like the Texans defense has been capable of in the past, if they don't get the offense fixed, that would be my high water mark. If they lean into the rushing attack and actually develop something and they can build some play action off of that, then they can do better than that. And they can be better than a 500 team, possibly a playoff team. But as we know, I mean, there's only one team this century that started off 0-3 and made the playoffs, but it was the Houston Texans. So we've seen that it's possible in Houston, but it's very, very rare.
Yes, Houston in the last 25 years, they're the first team. And I looked at these other teams in the modern era, and all of them had 10 or 11 wins to get into the playoffs after starting 0-3. So that's certainly the ceiling. I don't know if they can reach 10 or 11. I could see 9, but even that may be hard based on what we're seeing offensively.
I don't think we see enough streakiness, if this makes any sense, to win a bunch of games in a row, which they're going to need to do if they're going to want to get to 9 wins, 10 wins at this point, having lost the first 3. What I mean by that is that I don't think we see them sustain any kind of streak within a game to give us confidence that they could do that over 2 or 3 games or 4 games in a row. To me, this team has a successful drive, and then the next drive, there's just nothing going on. So it's very hard to see them being able to string anything together to get to that higher watermark.
So there you have it, 0-3. Will the Texans finally get a win next time out? We'll find out together. Seth Payne, as always, thanks for being on Sports Extra tonight with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Go Rockets.